The end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to jump in that gigantic, sharp, interactive board and go through Epson's first half FY2024. You know, Epson always delivers a pretty respectable operating profit. I do believe that their top line revenue could go up if they could get out of their own damn way and be a little bit more disruptive. You know, I've been complaining to Epson for a while now. Get out there and disrupt that laser-based world. All those laser color machines that are littering hallways and offices all over the world, go replace that laser stuff with inkjet. And when you look at the numbers of Epson in that division, it's pretty flat. They're not really knocking it out of the park in that category. And I don't understand why. Are they afraid to disrupt? It seems a lot of folks, you know, they'll say they're disruptors. Yeah, we're disrupting the marketplace. But they're tiptoeing through the tulips as they do it. I gotta tell you something. Disruption causes the old way and status quo to get mad. And a lot of people, once they figure that out, oh, if the status quo and the old way is going to get mad, maybe I should back off on my disruption. No, that's when you go in and disrupt even more. What did Ray Kroc say years ago? When the competition's drowning, shove a damn hose down their throat and turn on the faucet. That's what disruptors do. But boy, some people just can't get there in their mind. But in our industry, going through massive innovation, right? Big disruption, people printing less. Holy crap, the disruptors better get out there and start disrupting. And inkjet is a great solution. Less parts, less service, all the stuff. You've seen those episodes. So let's jump on the board. I want to share my thoughts with you. First thing I want to do is remind everybody of what I believe was a stupid acquisition that Epson made. And that was the one on Firey. I did an episode on it. I just believe this was nutty. And I believe now that it's getting to be a little bit older in the minds of the OEMs and the minds of all the dealers that are using Firey. They're starting to think, they're starting to ask questions. Do I really want to get my digital front end from a competitor, from an OEM? Hopefully, Epson just really wanted the intellectual property and some patents, and they're going to use that in their own products, and they're not going to be the digital front end for other OEMs and for dealers. Maybe that's what it's going to be. Because, folks, you got to be honest. I'm sure that the OEMs are scrambling to figure out how to come to market with their own digital front end. I'm sure that the competitors to Firey are loving life. And by the way, folks, there are some pretty good competitors out there to Firey. Stay tuned for more on that. But, you know, when Epson bought Firey and I showed the numbers and I was asking questions, were they declining in revenue as a company? You know, and we all know this was part of a conglomerate, went into private equity hands. But for the most part, Firey was neutral until Epson bought them. But I looked at the numbers and I conclude that in 2021, Firey was around $200 million in revenue. When I looked at the numbers of EFI, the industrial inkjet and productivity software, and Firey altogether from 2018, and then looked at the revenue from 2023, I was asking, did it decline by $176.7 million? Was it already a declining business? Was Firey on the decline as part of that declining business? And folks, you know, I just think these are pretty good, relevant questions. Let's look at some numbers. Oh, hang on a second before we get into the numbers. I got to bring this up. I can't stand it when I see this kind of stuff. There's an acquisition made, and these are the kind of press releases we see, and I found this on Epson's website. Let me read it to you. To continue to provide high quality, highly reliable products and services, Firey will continue to operate as in the past for its customers after the acquisition. I say bullshit. Why do people say this? It's idiotic. Okay, it is idiotic. When a company's acquired, it has new ownership, it has a new board, it has a new mindset in its customers. It has a new mindset in current customers, it has a new mindset in the customers it's going to go try to acquire. Everything's changed. It got acquired. Nothing is as it was or is. It just drives me crazy. Why bother saying it? I want to get that off my chest. Let's look at some numbers. Revenue for the whole conglomerate for the first half is $4.4 billion. Operating profit of $226.1 million, 5.2%. Printing solutions, $3.1 billion, 72% of the total revenues of Epson. Very important, the printing business to Epson. Epson, pretty respectable operating profit as a conglomerate. Let's dig a little bit deeper. I wanted to look at the printing solutions group. Total revenue, that $3.1 billion, had an operating profit of $411.4 million, 13.3%. That $3.1 billion is split up into two categories. The first category is office and home printing, $2.1 billion. The second category is commercial and industrial printing, $957.7 million, nearly $1 billion halfway through the year. Inside that home and office printing, there are two groups. We have home and office, Soho Home, and we have office and home, office shared. Office shared, $257.2 million for the first half. Office shared is where those MFPs that could be replacing all those laser color machines that are littering offices all over the world. If Epson could get out of their own damn way and go disrupt that marketplace, they could grow that number. When you look at the Soho revenue, $1.7 billion. $1.7 billion halfway through the year in Soho and home printing. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a huge number. At that run rate, it's $4.2 billion in the year. I've talked about this before when I shared Brother's financials. But when you look at Epson and you look at Brother and what they do for revenue in that Soho space, it's more than Konica Minolta does in digital workplace in the print. If you take Konica Minolta's digital workplace, just the printers and MFPs that are in offices all over the world, albeit they're in bigger offices, but at Konica Minolta, that's about a $4 billion a year business. And the question I keep asking all my OEM friends, all the other actors in the industry, is the customers that are using the bigger machines in the bigger businesses, well, the businesses can get bigger and grow, but the print machines are going to get smaller and smaller. And they're going to move more toward that Soho space where both Epson and Brother live. And by the way, Epson and Brother, next to HP, have the largest market shares in that space. So I think the industry needs to start paying attention to that. But ladies and gentlemen, my friends at Epson, go and replace those laser color machines in the offices right now. Now, they do say that in the office shared category is where they're going to put the RIPs. If I'm reading that right, 2 RIPs, 2 office shared. So what I suspect we're going to see is the revenue is going to grow in office shared, but that growth is going to be from Firey. I wouldn't call that real growth. I wouldn't call that disrupting laser machines by replacing them with inkjet. And so I'm going to watch that pretty close. And folks, I've shared this with you before where they show you all the pictures of all the products they sell and the revenues attached to it. And there's that $257.2 million. There's the office shared machine. And they need to sell more of these, and they just don't seem to do it. And I got to ask, why? I believe it's because they're afraid to disrupt. They're afraid to cause pain to status quo. They're afraid, and they got to stop being afraid. I looked at this slide, and this shows the growth in the geographies, and, well, America's the worst at growth. Let me just say it right there, it is. Plus 0.03. That's the lowest. Terrible. And is that part of that mindset? We're too uncomfortable being disruptive. We like to talk about disruption, but when we realize being disruption causes pain and anguish to the status quo in the old way, we want to back off a little bit. Whew. I got to tell you, Epson, all you folks that want to disrupt things, you got to be like Ray Kroc. When the competition's drowning, you shove a hose down their throat and you turn on the damn faucet. Let me wrap it up with a couple of questions. We know that Epson and Epic have been in this on and off again lawsuit. I'm digging more into that. I'll do a special episode on that coming soon. I also want to ask the question regarding Visual Edge IT. You know what my opinion of Visual Edge IT is. That's that mega dealer that has a BDC lender called Ares Capital that keeps writing off money on the loan. It's just a big old disaster financially. But Epson signs them up as a deal. There's a lot of press. They got a basketball player involved. Everything's fantastic. Epson's going to sell all these machines through Visual Edge IT, and I'm just wondering how that went. You know, how's that going for you? Epson, if you want to disrupt the marketplace, get disruptive and go disrupt the marketplace. You have the products. The product you have is really where the end users are going to end up. Why don't you get them to end up there quicker? Because everybody watching me knows this. Status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see you all tomorrow.